Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Travel Coach Network podcast. It is I, Sahara Rose DeVore, the founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network and the creator and instructor of the Travel Coach Certification Program. Today, we have a lovely guest. We have Aurélie Krau. She is a recognized force in the business, travel, and workplace innovation space, known for blending bold ideas with practical execution. She is well known for her digital nomad lifestyle and thrives at the intersection of travel, technology, and human behavior, always with an eye on what's next. With over 15 years of experience advising travel leading companies on technology, Orly has led projects that range from redesigning booking tools for Gen Z and Millennials to helping brands navigate the evolution of distribution and the blurred lines between business and leisure travel. Her work bridges strategy, storytelling, and innovation, whether she's shaping future ready programs or helping organizations make their people and ideas shine. Orly brings contagious energy to every stage she steps on. She's a sought after speaker and a moderator at global industry events and the creator of hashtag Thrive, a personal branding program designed to help individuals stand out in a crowded world. Today, she collaborates with brands through Timoji and her own venture in the leisure and lifestyle space. Named on the 2023 Business Travel News Hot List for her advocacy of work from anywhere, and as one to watch in 2016, Orly is known for pushing boundaries, building communities, and helping others be seen, heard, and remembered. Orly, thank you so much for joining us here on the TCN podcast today.
Super excited for the conversation.
Yeah, so before we jump into all the questions, I don't even remember how we met. I think obviously in the business travel industry, but it seems
Yeah.
like I've known you for quite some time and watched you as you hopped around the globe, and you're based now in Dubai, correct?
Yes, I moved to the Middle East amidst COVID, actually.
Yeah.
And I believe we met online, really, through LinkedIn, because you tried to really educate the business travel industry around well-being and the importance of community in business travel as well. I do remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Mhm.
The business travel industry, despite being so large, even this travel industry in general, it's also a small world at the same time
Yes.
too. But I'm so excited to chat with you and learn more about you. Obviously, I read so much of your experiences and your credibility and whatnot. Before we get into that, can you just tell us more about yourself and where your own passion for travel stems from?
So travel, I believe, has always been my thing. So funny enough, my family are not avid travelers. They a little bit, but really not just like me. I remember when I was a kid, I had posters, on the wall of my room with very famous sites. And I had even, on my desktop, it was those days where you still actually wrote with a pen and a paper, and you had a dictionary when I started to learn English. I always had like my coaster was a world map. I was very curious. I wanted to learn the capital cities, geography. Always loved that. I watched shows on TV with adventurers showing, what the destinations look like. And this was pre-social media. This really didn't exist back in the days. I mean, I'm a millennial. I was born in '86. And I believe that's what makes our generation quite interesting, because we're really at this intersection, right? We really felt the transition when social media came in, and it changed so many things for travel and connections. So I guess, yeah, that's just curiosity. And as soon as I was able to travel on my own and to be like legally allowed to hop on a plane, I did it. I remember I took jobs like in the summer, and I used that money. I spent all the money on travel. Starting age 16, 17. I just went abroad, and I did my thing.
Where was the first place you went to?
Abroad, it was Morocco. Then it was Turkey. So it was more easy flights from France, as a couple of hours. These were the first like proper summer trips, if you will.
Yeah.
And then I decided to work in travel, to really like work in travel. And then when I had my first internships, as a travel agent, really, I was using the GDSs with the commands and setting cruise ships and all sorts of things. I started to discover the technology, like the pipes behind the scenes, like with the booking systems. And again, it was the beginning of meta search, OTAs, and I decided I want to do that. I want to work on the pipes powering the booking capabilities.
Yeah, I love that. We'll get into that. But is there a
Yeah,
trip that you can recall that really impacted you in some way?
definitely. Colombia. Colombia, and it's much more recent. Colombia was something like 7, 8 years ago. It was my first longer trip. Like I left for 2 months with my backpack and my laptop because I was already a freelancer, so I work from anywhere. And was my first long trip in Latin America. And people around me were freaking out, like, "What? Solo woman, you're going to Colombia?" Because people tend to be very scared of what they don't know. And that trip, the second I landed, I knew that I had a special connection with Colombia and Latin America. I love Spanish. It's always been my favorite language. I speak Spanish as well. And I don't know, the people, the vibes, the experience. Colombia made a big difference. And since then, COVID was an exception, but every single year I go somewhere else in Latin America. I need it. It's my oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colombia is a beautiful, beautiful country, and all of those Latin American countries, I I love it. My grandmother was from Mexico, and so her and I were the only ones in her family that speak Spanish. Well, she passed away, but she spoke Spanish, obviously. And so just being in environments where I'm able to speak Spanish kind of just reconnects me with my my kind of my heritage, my upbringing and everything too. So it's just like they're just beautiful countries with beautiful people and everything, right?
And
Everything's there with nature
so,
and food and
so
everything.
diverse, exactly, because every country is so different. And like
Hmm.
last year, I finally like checked a massive box of my bucket list. I finally spent time in Patagonia. And this is like a destination. It has been on my list since I'm a kid. And this felt very, very special. I loved it. Yeah, I love this part of the world.
What part what part of Patagonia did you go to? Was it the Chilean or Argentinian side?
Both,
Oh,
both, like the southern part. So I
mm,
started around El Calafate, so
mhm.
the glacier area, El Chalten, and then I went to the Chilean part, Torres del Paine and Puerto Natales.
Did you go as far down as Ushuaia?
Couldn't make time because distances are so big and flights
Yeah,
is always a bit complicated. For some reason, there's not always direct flights, so you have a lot of connections. And I just decided I love slow travel rather than trying to see the maximum amount of sights and whatsoever. I'd rather stay in a place and enjoy and see. I mean, this already covers quite some area. And I was like, no,
yeah.
maybe next time, maybe next time.
Yeah, well, Patagonia is a massive region,
Yeah.
and I've been to just Bariloche in the Argentinian side, which is in the further north of it. And I remember saying, like, I want to come back and make this a whole trip itself in Patagonia because it's just so big. And as you say, it takes time to travel
Yes,
throughout it. But I met so many backpackers who were um, aimlessly traveling and would go down to Ushuaia or came from there, and they were like trying to hop on fishing boats so they can get over to Antarctica and stuff too. So it's quite the adventure and stunning, like
exactly.
absolutely stunning with it's my epitome of beauty in nature of like the reflection of the mountains on the bodies of water and the crystal blue waters. Like it's just a beautiful place that I don't think we see enough images and
Agree. And
Yeah, pictures of.
what felt very special is I've done the W trek in Torres del Paine, so it's 5 days, 4 nights, and there's no signal, and this just felt amazing. Because I mean, you could purchase Wi-Fi, but it's ridiculous. First, it's ridiculously expensive. Second, this is not why I'm in nature. And you actually talk to people. I was traveling solo, and because no one's connected, no one's just using their phone all the time and scrolling, you make connections that you would normally not make. This felt really good. It was a very good detox and completely disconnected.
Yeah, which is what travel should do, right? Takes us
Yeah,
out of our phone world into the real world and
yeah,
our own world and our own minds and everything. Well, you started talking about how your transition into or your interest into the technology aspect of the
yeah,
travel world. And I know by following you and knowing you in the travel industry and on LinkedIn, you're very involved, as I obviously read your bio, with so many different types of technology and companies. Can you share like where was that step first in for you, and how did you essentially grow the brand that you have now and the connections that you have now? Because
yeah,
you you're like the epitome to me at least of like someone who's you're combining all your different interests and things that you just love doing and shaping this career, at least for yourself right now, whether it's speaking on stages or consulting or, collaborating or whatever it might be. Like, how did Aurélie, who was just traveling for
yeah.
summer, uh, turn into that?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think you're amongst the rare people that actually understand what I'm doing. So that feels good. No one gets what I'm doing, and that's okay. Because as long as I know what I'm doing, I'm fine. So it basically started. I started 4 years in the corporate world, working on the travel tech side, but it wasn't for me because I felt too constrained. I really wanted to travel. I wanted more freedom, and I even wanted more freedom in the sense of why can't I just work remotely? Why do I need to have my butt on a chair from Monday to Friday? Why do I need to commute? I lived in Paris. Why do I need to commute an hour and a half every morning, an hour and a half every evening? There must be a better way. And quite organically, I I'm a very opinionated person, and I speak my mind. And even if people don't ask for my opinion, I add my 2 cents in a respectful way, of course. But just picture that, like, this was the year, I don't know, 2010, 2007, 2010. And one trigger was the last year of my MBA. We had to build a website because as part of the training, they wanted us to understand how to use some tools. And it was a group project. And with my friend, we said, you know what, let's build a blog. So at least we can make something like out of it. And back in the days, we started writing articles about, okay, so Facebook now is out because this was like the beginning of the boom of Facebook. What does it mean for travel? uh, and you had all those changes that we started to position ourselves back in the days as, like millennials, being like what I've mentioned, at the intersection of some major turning points in the industry. What does that mean? This and this and that. And we started to translate those articles in English because it was French. And then, interestingly, on LinkedIn, we were quite early adopters. We started just really to share our experience, share our thoughts. And turns out some people did read what we were writing. My friend wasn't that much into that anymore, so I started to, just take it over. And little by little, people started to invite me in panels. Like right now, when we talk about Gen Z, it's like, okay, why don't we ask them rather than sitting in a panel without a representative of the generation? So this was me back then. And essentially, the more I started to do those side gigs, the less the corporate world sounded, because I couldn't really have that freedom. You know how it is, it needs to be PR and this and that. You need to be PR trained. You cannot go on panels. We cannot send you there. And I was like, you know what? I need to build my own path, because this is not for me. I'm going to be miserable if I don't do it. And I worked very hard on my network. And little by little, you meet one person, you meet another person, you meet another person, and then they tell you, hey, we're looking at doing something different to talk about our tool, our booking tool. Would you care writing content for us? Or maybe some teams didn't have enough resources, so they needed to outsource. And so one thing led to another. I started to grow my business like organically. I started to get consulting gigs as well. So content creation, thought leadership, research work, public speaking work, and consulting work. And this is what, brought me to just do my own thing and leave the corporate world. And like you said, try to combine everything that I like. Well, on paper, it sounds super exciting and easy. It's not easy. It's really not easy, because you have bills to pay. So it's part of the sacrifices. I don't think you do this to become rich. You do this to become free. And just to have enough money to do what you want to do. And what I absolutely loved was the event gigs, because you said it, your personality makes a big difference, because this is why people will contact you. Because a lot of people can do a moderation job. Of course, there's skills, but there's also what you bring to the table, the personality. And when you do event work, you travel a lot, because clients, do the event in city A, city B, city C. And I started like this every time I extended my trips, so I could explore destinations. My work is online anyway. And it just, did like snowball effects. It became bigger and bigger. And this is how I managed to build a career out of it.
Yeah, I love that. It everything that you just shared embodies the hard work and the grit
Yeah.
and that it takes to create a lifestyle and do whatever it is that you want to do, even if you don't have a name to whatever it is that you're doing. And you mentioned that it gives you a sense of freedom, and I think
Yeah.
we as human beings seek freedom in so many different ways. And travel is one way that people turn to for that sense of freedom, no matter if it's short term, long term, or however they define that sense of freedom. Um, and I just love that you're just living a life that brings you true joy, and happiness, and allowing you to be creative. And so that's something I tell my members in the Travel Coach Network all the time is like, what do you want to do? What impact do you want to make? What do you enjoy doing? And then what you also talked about is when you started off, is you were just sharing your thoughts and your ideas. And
Exactly.
so we're going to go into now talking about personal branding, because you are who you are because you've built a personal brand.
Yeah.
And network, of course, but
Yeah.
networking, I
It
think,
goes together.
yeah, it goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
right? And I know in the business travel world, and I know that's where we connected on LinkedIn
Yeah.
in the business travel space. We're two people who have our own opinions and beliefs in something and aren't afraid to vocalize that and then also show up. And so all of that takes time, but it takes
Mm.
effort. And I know, and the reason where I'm getting at with here is, yes, we're going to talk about personal branding, but for a lot of our listeners here are travel business owners, travel
Yeah.
coaches, travel agents, even just travelers themselves too, who are doing whatever their own thing is or figuring out their own life. Um, we hold ourselves back a lot from putting ourselves out there or putting our ideas out there, putting our thoughts out there,
Yeah.
or even just putting ourselves out there, our truest selves, in fear for so many different things. And you're sharing with us here of like what could come, what opportunities could come to you, what doors could open, what connections you can make by what we're calling a brand, a personal brand here. So
Yeah.
can you share like what does a personal brand really mean and what's the difference between a personal brand and then like what we think of as a brand, like a business
Yeah.
brand?
So a personal brand, look at it this way. You are your own best advocates because the very first question that I usually ask people who ask me for advice is, like what exactly is a personal brand and how can I be a bit more visible? And to your point is, what do you want to be known for? When you're not in a room, in an ideal world, what would you like people to say about you? And it can be anything really. And the answer to that question is what is going to drive everything that you say, everything that you share, everything that you create in terms of content. And it doesn't have to be one thing. I mean, I'm doing so many things, but that's also part of my brand because people are used to that. So a personal brand is basically marketing yourself as an individual, but your story, telling more about who you are and what you do over a service or a product. It's really try to establish a connection with people through content that you are sharing. And even if you're a little bit more introverted, because we all have our own personality, and by no means you should change who you are. Absolutely not. And you don't always have to show, you don't even have to show your face in the content that you are producing. It doesn't have to be a video. It's not because the massive trend is to do a video that you have to do a video if this is not you. So I hope that answered the question, but it's basically telling your story, making it personal, rather than having something impersonal. Because a brand, it's you don't know who you're talking to really. You don't know who's managing the account. So some brands per se are very active. They comment. They even back in the days, Twitter, now X. Some brands are really good. I mean, take the travel industry. I don't know. Take Ryanair, for example, the low-cost carrier. They're always a bit controversial, but they answer. There's a lot of banter. So yes, but at the end of the day, you don't know who you're talking to. It's very impersonal, and you will never connect with the same level because people follow people. People know, and when I say a face, again, it's not in the pure way that they need to see your face, but they want somebody relatable. That's also part of a brand, really.
Yeah. I know in the travel industry as a whole is a very saturated industry and
Yes.
there's a lot of noise out there. And I know for a lot of travel coaches, travel agents, um, business owners, retreat leaders, whatever title you have, it's easy to try to fit yourself into the mold of what others are doing or what you're told you
Yeah.
should do or what has been proved quote unquote successful from someone else, right?
Yeah,
And so
blueprint or whatsoever.
yeah, so the whole point of creating a brand, like you said, people follow people, people trust
Yeah.
people, people connect with people.
Yes.
And they don't connect with a logo, they don't connect, they
No.
don't resonate with that. They resonate with your story. They resonate with who you are. So for those listening, I want you guys to think about what brands you follow, what people do you follow, what
Exactly.
products you buy, what companies you buy from, and really ask yourself like why? Why do I love this brand so
Yeah.
much? Why do I love to watch this person's videos? Why do I love to listen to this person's podcast? Like, what is it
Exactly.
about that? And it's the branding that they have really mastered that is unique to them that's making you feel a certain way. And
Exactly.
that's what we should be doing with our content. And I know a lot of travel business owners are like, well, I get stuck on creating content because they think they have to do everything that they're told or what's trending right now or what they used to seeing in the travel industry. And I'm like, you don't need the same pretty pictures and palm trees and influencer type of videos. It's,
Mm,
you know, who are you and what is your story and what's
yeah,
your connection to travel?
exactly.
That's what's going to set you apart. And before you know it, you're building your own personal brand.
Yeah. I very often hear, so for example, Patagonia, or when I travel while working, most of my content, like this one that I share, is going to be on Instagram or through stories. And I get so many comments of people telling me, we feel like we're traveling with you because you talk to the camera, you talk to us, you show life the way it is, you show things, and I don't know, it's you add your own commentary, you add your own way and your own feedback, your own experiences, rather than just posting a photo or very long text. Or but again, because this is me, so they, and this is something that really I was very happy, because I genuinely share my experience and I share the real thing. And I also share when things don't go well, I share it as well. It's not always, you know, puppies and rainbows, everything's fine. When I have challenges, I share that as well. And this is why people get like, you know, they see that oh, she uploaded something new, let's see what she's up to. It creates a bit of you know, like excitement for people to just to figure out what you have to say, what story does she want to tell. And if you can find a way as a like a travel coach to have your own identity that stands out in the way that you communicate, I believe that you already have done 50% of the job.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I don't know if you know who Scott Eddy is. He's big in the hospitality and travel space, but he's really big on Instagram. But he's a friend of mine. He was just on the podcast not too long
Mhm.
ago, Scott Eddy, and he has a massive following on Instagram. But he's built this personal brand that people love follow. When you said people follow your journey, I thought of him immediately. And it's like I'm thinking, like, why do I follow him? Why do I like to see what
Yeah,
he's why do I like to hear what he's talking about? And it's the same thing of why I love watching you on LinkedIn too, because it's like we know who you are. And so when you have a travel business, travel is very personal and it's very emotional. And so if
yes,
you're trying to create a business, no matter what your role is, whatever your title, whatever your business model is, it also has your brand has to have that personal emotional touch as well. If you want to stand out,
yeah,
if you want to attract your ideal clients versus throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks and say
yeah,
everyone loves travel, I'll serve everyone. All of these pieces are in your personal brand, your brand story, like all of your core values. These are essential to the setting a really solid foundation for any sort of business out there, especially one where you are the one who is taking someone on a journey that is
yeah,
supposed to benefit them in a meaningful, transformative way as well. It's that trust, it's that likability, it's them understanding that you are the person who relates to them, who gets them, who understands them. And you do that through building your personal brand. And that's how
exactly.
you start getting clients, you get opportunities. And it's such a
Yeah,
common question. Like, how do I get clients? Like, I have my
exactly.
website, I have this, I have
So,
this. Like, how do I get clients? Well,
I mean,
how are you showing up?
think about the pyramids. The foundations of the pyramid are going to be exactly what you said, Sarah. You need for people to find you. If they Google you or whatsoever, okay, so she has a website, this is her page, great. But then what is going to make them want to see your content? You know, the create that spark, you know, the fact that, yeah, they get excited to just to tap on that little circle to see what you're up to. And always think about it that way as well. If you think about it, you have two types of branding, really, in terms of personal branding. You have what I call branding by authority. This is you. It's your own or OG content, your personality, your story, your thing. And then you have branding by association. And this is where you can, for example, leverage your network. Maybe post, you know, this is what I do a lot on the B2B side on LinkedIn. Very concrete examples. I attend conferences, I attend shows, and I post digests. I give content, I try to give value, And I use, but in a good way, I use established brands, trade shows, people, to make sure and to drive confidence and to build my credibility as well. Think about it that way. We've all been to restaurants where you look at the walls, you have the owner taking a photo with stars eating at the restaurant. This is a proper branding by association, and the photo tells a story. You know, we welcomed X star and this and that, so it makes you a bit more credible. It shows that you have a network. So it doesn't. You don't always have to overthink the content. What can I say? And very important thing as well when you try to attract business your way. First of all, it's a game of patience. Sometimes you might get frustrated, and I have that too, especially on LinkedIn. You're like, well, I put my soul into that piece of content. It didn't really get the engagement I was expecting. It doesn't matter. It's not about numbers. It's not about the size of a community. It's about, even if you have 2 likes, it doesn't matter. It's 2 people who actually engage with your content. And maybe these are the right people. And another thing as well that we don't always realize in terms of personal branding, people will not always tell you, but they see you. And sometimes I come across people, they never interact with my content. And they told me, oh, I saw last week you were here. I saw your post. I saw that. And you're like, oh, wow, okay. So help yourself. A personal branding, it's about helping yourself in the most authentic and the most genuine way. And you're not arrogant or whatsoever. It has nothing to do with this is me, and look at me. Not at all. It's really about genuinely sharing your story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've met people or crossed paths or someone messages me and they're like, yeah, I was just at this event and your name got brought up. I'm like, my name got brought up. Like, okay, like that recently happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen these people in so long. And he was with a group of like really, important people. I'm like, wow, so you never know who is following you, who's watching what you're
Exactly.
doing, and who is connecting with what you're putting out. And that goes for whether it's opportunities, whether it's connections, whether it's clients, potential clients. I want those who are listening to this episode to be consistent. Keep
Yeah.
putting stuff
Show
out there.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
show up. Be yourself. Share your thoughts. Get creative with it. Just, tell your stories and, educate. I heard something recently where someone's like, be a teacher. Just be a teacher. Like, teach. What is it that you can teach people and just keep them? Because people find value in so many different
Yeah.
things, but you have to show up. And when you're looking for those likes, the follows, the whatever it might be, those numbers mean nothing. They mean
No.
nothing. It doesn't mean no one saw your content and no one appreciated it. And it doesn't mean that someone who has a ton of followers also gets a lot of engagement or makes a lot of money either. Like, you
Exactly.
never know what is happening in someone's
You
world. That's
never
why we
know.
don't need to be worrying about other people's worlds. You need to
No.
worry about your own. And if you stay consistent with it, even when you get in those mental funks of, I don't think I'm talking about the right thing, or I don't think what I'm doing is working, you have to keep on going because you never know when you will get that message, when you will get that opportunity, when you will get that client, when you will get that praise that you're looking for.
Yeah.
As you said, it's a game of patience in every way, shape, or form.
Exactly. And also, it's if you don't show up for yourself, people cannot find you. If you're a bit inactive, because people are going to look you up. So what you have put out there, maybe they're going to browse through what you posted in the past. They're going to get curious. I'm sure it happens to all of you. Out of a sudden, you have people who follow you. They like posts from 6 months ago because they're genuinely interested. They're curious. So to your point, yeah, consistency is key. Even though sometimes it might feel a bit, you might feel discouraged. It doesn't matter. And passion and consistency and discipline is what's going to drive you. And just genuinely show your passion, because it shows and people feel it. When you do things from your guts, when it comes from your heart, they will feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're getting towards the end of this episode, but I'm gonna ask you a couple like rapid questions, just give you a couple tips or first thoughts on it. Because you are so well versed in the travel industry and the technology world. So what is a trend or what is something happening in the travel space, whether it's just an inkling of it now and it's going to grow in the future, or it is happening now, that really excites you?
So I'm a tech person, so my obvious answer is going to be AI. And it's quite fascinating, the conversations. So if we're talking about pure business travel, it's more about driving efficiencies, automate things, or removing some frictions, but on the leisure aspect as well, I like this catchphrase. It's like AI is eating UI. Like AI is going to change the user interface. Think about how will people find you. Again, you have the pyramid that we've just mentioned. You have your foundations, but now people are going to maybe ask a question to ChatGPT, to any other tool of there. It can be Gemini, it can be Perplexity or whatsoever. So they have very different ways to browse for information. And you, as travel coaches, if you think about AI can curate itineraries. It's never been more easy to have access to so much information, plan a trip, whatsoever. So that kind of excites me, because my prediction, because of all this AI and tech-driven world, human connection is going to boom, because tech is going to be everywhere. Because the reality, you said it several times, emotions. Travel is about emotions. Planning a trip, especially if it's transformative, yes, you can find information, but the level of support, or having a coach that will understand, a human that will talk to you, that will guide you through this journey, is going to be even more important now that the information is going to be even more easily accessible or online. So that's something you need to think about. Embrace AI, even use it for your job, even advise your own clients or your prospects. Well, these are great resources in case you want more information. And think about you as a human. What's the added value in this AI-driven world? Even to create content. You don't need ChatGPT for ideas or create your content. You just need to, sometimes, a pen and a paper. Again, what do I want to be known for? It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And there's a second thing that gets me excited, is blended travel. So even on my trips, I see a lot of people. I'm just working from my laptop, and I get many questions. People come talk to me. How did you do it? I would love to be more independent. So working while traveling, or working from anywhere for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. And people need guidance on that. And from a travel industry perspective, these two has a lot of implications if you think about that. And the last bit is sustainability and traveling in a responsible way. So A, it's the environment, but B, responsible in the sense of what positive impact can I have on local communities? Where do I need to spend my money? This restaurant is owned by a little family. This travel guide is local. It's not a huge agency. It's not a multinational. So that aspect as well. So AI, then blended travel and responsible travel.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those. There's a lot of buzz and information and conversation happening around all of those. So I definitely recommend people, doing some more research and, finding your own thoughts and your own opinions. And that's some great content too. Give your own perspective on things, right?
Absolutely. You can comment what the trends that you see, and just share, you as a travel coach, how do you see that trend shaping up? There you go. Tag us when you post this content. And I mean, like you, Sarah, I love interacting, and so we can help you generate some engagement.
Yeah. And you also talked a lot about the power of networking, which I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in. You never know who you meet or what doors will open or just the relationships that you can nurture. What are two tips that you can give to our listeners who are getting started on building their own network?
Well, first of all, there's this saying like, pay it forward or pay it back. So never hesitate. I would absolutely love putting people in contact. You know, I meet you, oh, I need to introduce you to that person or to that person, to that person. Start doing it genuinely for people around you, because you're just going to pay it forward, because at some point people are going to do the same with you. So to build your network, start with that. And this can even be introducing yourself. So whatever platform of your choice you are using, my example, LinkedIn, I'm big out there on thought leadership. I just invite myself to conversations because LinkedIn is a social network. So I comment posts from strangers with my ideas, and then we start to have conversations and we take it privately on via DM and we connect to each other. So this is one thing to really build that network. Second, we talk about that like so much. Make yourself visible. Give yourself that platform by getting your ideas out there, and encourage people to comment on your content, and maybe find allies, that can also help generate comments to your content.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all, I'm shaking my head here, yes, because those are all things that are super important. A post popped up not long ago from someone who I was connected but never really talked to on LinkedIn, and I think it's the Travel Tech List, the founder of the Travel Tech List, I think it's called. And his post popped up and I gave another option for what he was talking
Yeah.
about. And like a couple weeks later, he does a whole post based off of my post and like tags me in it and expands upon it. And from that, I got all these other connections and engagement and stuff too. So, you know, putting yourself out there, have an
Yeah.
opinion on something, have a stance, and and it doesn't have to be controversial, it doesn't have to be
No.
negative in any way, shape, or form, but really ask yourself, you guys who are listening to this episode, of like, what do you want to be known for? And what do you
Yeah.
care about? What is it that you care so deeply about? And who
Yeah.
needs to hear that, right?
Exactly. You can ask a question. You can even share a link to an article that you've read about that topic. You don't necessarily need to put yourself out there as in, okay, I'm going to think about, I need to sound smart. It's really not about that.
Yeah, don't overthink it, right?
Yeah.
Well, Aurélie, we're towards the end here, but I always love to ask my favorite question to our listener, our guests. What is a fun fact about yourself and that you can share with our listeners? It doesn't have to be business or travel related.
So funny enough, it's travel related. A fun fact about me, it's a long story, but I'm going to make it very short. I almost got jailed in Zagreb airport once in my trip, and I got my passport confiscated. And I've learned on the spot that my passport was reported as stolen. And this was a crazy story. I was on a business trip. I was traveling to deliver an event, and I got redirected because there was a massive strike, and it was an insane story. So that's a fun fact about me.
Well, why was it reported stolen?
So 1 year before, I got my bag stolen in Berlin as part of a conference, but in my bag was my national ID, not my passport. But I had to report it to the police. And the police told me, do you have another ID so that we can just confirm your identity? And I said, yes, I have my passport. And I've learned 1 year later that the German police reported my passport as being stolen rather than my national ID. And the crazy story, within that year, I traveled to the US, I traveled to Latin America, I traveled to so many places without having any problem. Yeah, that was a crazy story.
Oh my God, that sounds terrifying. Well, glad you didn't go to jail. Well, Aurélie, thank you so much. And how can everyone find, follow, and learn more about you?
And so Instagram for my travel stories, hike mountains, and work from anywhere adventures. And on the more travel industry insights, it's going to be on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Well, Aurélie, thank you so much for being a guest on the TCN podcast today.
Thanks. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks, Sarah.
Wonderful. Everyone, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Travel Coach Network. Learn more at thetravelcoachnetwork.com. Come give us a hello in our TCN Global Community on Facebook. You can find the link for that and your free beginner's guide to travel coaching and all of Aurélie's links in the show notes. If you know anyone who may be interested in travel coaching, please be sure to send them our way to our podcast. We would truly appreciate that. And until next time, my fellow wanderers, bye for now.